Undertale is a game respected for doing almost everything right. The soundtrack is incredible, the gameplay is lots of fun, and the story is full of emotional highs and lows. In terms of importance, however, I think Toby's sense of humour comes second only to the game's OST. There's some real laugh-out-loud moments in Undertale, and it's nice that a lot of it comes from clever writing rather than lazy attempts at being random. So, in tribute to how hilarious the game can be at times, I've decided to count down the top 5 moments I find to be the funniest. The game is packed full of humour, remember, so these are just my personal picks. I'd love to hear what moment you found to be the funniest, so feel free to leave a comment below. Anyhow, let's get started. I've got spaghetti cooking and I don't want it to burn. This does count, right? Crazily enough, Toby was making Undertale jokes as early as 2013, 2 years before the game had even been released. The Kickstarter Awards are what I find to be particularly amusing. While most are your standard fare, with $10 getting you a digital download of the game, and so on, some of these awards are, shall we say, unique. For $31, we can have the relief of not having Papyrus's cool song on the soundtrack. However, for $32, we can enjoy the cacophony of all the songs within the OST being replaced with Papyrus's cool song. Now, unfortunately for all of us, a sample of this song is actually provided within the game's Kickstarter reward tiers explanation video. Let's subject ourselves and take a listen. Wow, yeah, I'm somewhat glad that song was cut out of the official OST. Of course, we can't move on without reminding ourselves of the $1,000 fan troll tier. While by itself it's just a humorous reference to the webcomic Homestuck, it resulted in a crazy controversy no one likely saw coming. Be sure to check out the video I've already done on it, covering it in more detail, called The Truth and Controversy Behind Undertale's Fan Troll. So this may very well be the weirdest moment in all of Undertale, and that's really saying something. While in the ruins, Toriel gives us a phone, intending to act as our surrogate mother. This allows us to take a break from playing and call her up to talk about things. Seems innocent enough. One of our options is to call her mum. Normally this would be quite adorable. However, we can then go on to immediately flirt with her, and do so repeatedly so that she knows we're serious. Yeah, right after calling her mum. Toriel remarks on this before swiftly ending the conversation. This could easily have gone on a top 5 disturbing moments in Undertale list, though I have to admit it's so weird it's kind of hilarious. While she had the best intentions, Toriel has been living in the past for a fair few years now. The phone she gives us is practically ancient, so when we come across Dr. Alphys, she insists on upgrading it on our behalf. She also takes the liberty of signing you up to the Underground's #1 social network. As we all know, social networking can be a bother at the best of times. Now try having a socially anxious monster who seemed to live her entire life posting on the internet as a friend. At one point she manages to forget that she added you to her friends earlier, and so when she begins to ramble on about how nervous she is to call you, you get to read every anxiety-ridden post. This goes on for a while. She even frets over forgetting to tell you where to go before sharing a picture of a trash can, layered with pink filters that she claims to be a picture of herself. As we can clearly see, Alphys is full of self-esteem. Of course, I'd be amiss not to mention the legendary conversation that takes place between Alphys and the enigmatic Cool Skeleton 95, who is obviously Papyrus. In a completely anatomically accurate post, he sends a picture of himself wearing sunglasses, along with his biceps that are also wearing sunglasses. Something tells me this picture may have been photoshopped, but it's only a suspicion. Finally, the crowning moment of Alphys' social networking hijinks has to be her scathing review of Mew Mew Kissy Cutie 2. Having seen it myself, I don't know. I think Mew Mew's character arc was more detailed and emotional than the first one, and Alphys is only complaining because she prefers the less convoluted story, whereas Kissy Cutie 2 manages to capture something that... Upon first meeting Alphys, she's swift to describe a robot built for entertainment that she somehow accidentally turned into a psychopathic killer. She conspicuously says aloud that she hopes you don't run into him. only for Metaton himself to break through the wall seconds later. That almost seemed intentional. Regardless of whether this whole encounter was staged or not, what follows is undeniably funny. Metaton's hellish quiz is about as unfair as it comes, though fortunately we have a certain advantage. Alphys cups her claws in order to form the letter you must choose to answer correctly. If you don't, Metaton gives you a painful zap that takes half of your health. I get flashbacks of the impossible quiz when playing this section, as there's some questions that would simply be impossible to answer without Alphys' assistance. Some of the answers to these questions are also laugh out loud funny. I know Asgore's proper name is Asgore Dreamer, but he really should have the nickname Dr. Friendship, as that would be quite amazing. Then there's parts like this question. The first time playing through, I didn't notice Alphys miming the answers in the background, and so I'm sure you can believe I was quite stumped. How she works out these questions so quickly is a bit of a mystery. Either Alphys' genius is on full display here, or she's already agreed on the questions in advance with Metaton. Speaking of unfair questions, just look at this one. Clearly the monster is Frogget. No wait, it's actually Metaton wearing a shirt with a Frogget on it. I can't deny that as frustrating as it was to be deceived like that, it was pretty darn funny. Of course, if the questions were agreed on in advance, there's one exception that crops up every time. As much as Metaton is willing to help Alphys with her odd little scheme to befriend you, he doesn't take kindly to having his show be interrupted. So, when Alphys blurts out the answer rather than miming it as she's supposed to, he asks you an incredibly embarrassing question for her. Interestingly, there isn't a wrong answer to this question. Undine is likely the most correct answer, though it appears that Alphys has a secret crush on just about everyone. Knowing that Alphys likely spends all day alone in the lab, fantasizing about having a relationship, is both sad and sort of adorable. The moment we meet Papyrus, we realise this isn't going to be a character we forget anytime soon. Having apparently based his entire shtick around Skeletor from He-Man, Papyrus is the epitome of narcissistic, egotistical, and hilariously incompetent. Almost everything Papyrus does is destined to fail, not that he'd ever acknowledge that. From his desperation to capture a human to his harebrained puzzles and traps, almost everything he does is in some way funny. Some of the most memorable moments include when Papyrus orders you to navigate his invisible maze, only to electrocute himself, then tread through the snow and leave a path showing where to go. Then there's his outrage over Sans' failed attempt at a puzzle to stop you, and the fact that he claims crosswords are harder than word searches. Typically in this situation you'd think the character is joking, but there's almost no doubting that Papyrus is in fact entirely serious. Finally, there's one of the strangest moments in a video game. You know the one, the date with Papyrus. A parody of Japanese romance simulators, this one sequence is so bizarre and ridiculous that I think it's responsible for being the point where I really started to like Undertale. It's pretty hard to deny how funny it is when you press C, only to have what appears to be the UI for some seriously advanced technology appear, despite its only use apparently being for the sake of dating. The rest of the date plays out like a fight you can't really lose, and it only gets more and more bizarre the longer it goes on. Eventually, Papyrus is wearing his cool dude gear and is trying to feed you spaghetti that's balanced on top of his skull. That's when you know things have gotten just a little bit weird. Pretty much every line of dialogue Papyrus has is in some way funny, so I found it impossible to single out a select moment. My pick for the funniest moment in Undertale is just simply all of Papyrus. Well, those are my picks for the funniest moments in Undertale. The game is absolutely packed with amusing scenes of course, so please tell me what your favourites were in the comments. A few honourable mentions for me would be Metaton's transformation into Metaton EX, and Toriel's curious obsession with snails. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you next time.